All right, we're here with Jay Jackson from the Brushback Podcast. Brand new, pretty new podcast, right? You're on season 2, I saw. It's a great show about just like the ins and outs of baseball. And we want to try and give a little bit of that to you by having Jay on. Jay, you've had a long baseball career. I'll say that, a very long career, and that is something to be proud of. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but people don't survive in baseball very long. So doing that is an
No, yeah, I
accomplishment.
appreciate you having me on here. Yeah, this was year 17 as of right now, so hopefully I'll get to year
Wow.
18 playing professionally next year. And yeah, like you said, I'm just started the podcast. It's on season 2. I think I don't even know how many episodes deep. You kind of get lost in the shuffle, like of doing them once you start doing them right with the podcasting thing. You just kind of do them and then put them out, and
Yeah.
then once they're out there, you just realize like, oh God, like you said, you guys are on episode like what 180 or something like that. Like,
One
yeah,
one
so
seventy
you
eight.
just kind
Yeah.
of start doing it, and then all of a sudden, like you're at 100 and you're at like 50, and it's like so. Yeah, it's kind of like my career. You just kind of stack the years together, stack the episodes together, and then you see what you have left. But yeah, the Brushback podcast is kind of my hobby that I've been doing now, along with my co-host Trayvon Robinson, who he's in his 19th year. This past year was his 19th year playing professional baseball. So we've both got some years, and so it's been fun to do it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just as a longtime fan of baseball, man, I'm just in awe of obviously a long career. So the journeys, I'm always fascinated. Like everybody's got a different journey to get to where they are. You mentioned it, 17 years. You're drafted in 2008. Don't make your major league debut until 2015. Take me through the beginning of your career. You know how like where you came in, and then kind of that journey to go through the minors and finally get to the big leagues in 2015.
Yeah, drafted in 2008 and was a top prospect for a few years. Thought the path was really clear, right? You know, you're a top prospect, everything should be lining up, but that's just not how it worked out. I started there and I ended up with I got to AAA after no, actually my first full year. So I got drafted in '08, 2009. By the end of 2009, I was in AAA. So it was really a fast ascension, I guess. And then
Yeah.
from there, I thought I was knocking on the door, and then just got stuck in AAA. You know, I was in the PCL, the old PCL, where it was more terrible travel and all the older guys picking on the younger guys for the most part and hitting home runs everywhere you're at, you know. So the ERAs kind of got inflated, but I think I held my own there for a few years, but just never really got an opportunity. And then left the Cubs kind of in it's it's a crazy fashion how I left the Cubs. I'll save that for I think one of the episodes on the Brushback podcast we have coming up with one of my old teammates who kind of got stuck in there with me in the same year and ended up getting released after I asked for it in I think it was 2013. Picked up by the Marlins, like
Yes.
literally the day I got actually released. Got picked up the Marlins the next day. Go spend the year with the Marlins that year. Had a good year, but ended the year I think I had like a bone contusion or strain in my elbow or something like that. So was pitching well, had some accidents happen, so didn't get called up. Still a free agent. Go to I believe the Pirates after that. Pirates just wasn't a good fit. I don't think the Pirates are a good fit for a lot of people, honestly.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you see, I think we just had an episode about it the other day about how they did Rowdy, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah, I
did that
saw
to
that.
Rowdy, but then they offer IKF like the chance to actually get his incentive, which is actually more than Rowdy's, which doesn't make sense. And I get the baseball and business side of it, but that's kind of crazy to me to do that to somebody. But then I go from the Pirates, just didn't work. Halfway through the end of I think around August, get traded to the Milwaukee Brewers because their AAA team was in a playoff hunt, and they asked me to come there and help. Go to Milwaukee as a free agent, well, not as a free agent, as a trade piece. Finish up there and go from Milwaukee, and I think the next year I go to San Diego and make my debut in San Diego after having a really good year that whole year in AAA. Well, started in AA, which was crazy. I was about to actually ask my release again, but go to AA, go to AAA, have a good year in AAA. Thought I should have been called up most of that year. Didn't make the All-Star team that year, but thought I should have been called up. Um, Finally get a September call up after most of the guys from the season have gone home, and then make my debut. And then from there, it's just been just living life and enjoying baseball wherever it's taken me. Whatever teams needed me is where I've gone after that.
You have a little Crash Davis in you. That's what it sounds like, at least. I don't know if you've
No, I've
watched
watched
Bull
Bull Durham
Durham or
plenty
not,
of times. Yeah,
but
we've kind of had the same. It's been similar. I think I've seen a lot of guys not my age, but a lot more position players with wear and tear, especially the catchers. You see them more like a Bull Durham because they get to hang around a lot longer. Because if you're a quality catcher, you get to,
Mhm.
coach guys a lot more, and you've seen everything. You're on both sides of the ball more. But for me, it's a little Crash Davis, and it's more, like I said, I just kind of wherever, you know, the man upstairs takes me and wants me to go, like, it's been where I've gone, and everywhere I've gone, I feel like I've had success there too. Um, and I've made the playoffs or been part of a playoff team everywhere I've gone, except for, I think this was the first year in, I think the past like 14, 15 years, 13 years, something like that, that I haven't been on a playoff team. But my fiance tells me that it doesn't count because I wasn't technically on the team at the end of the year. So this one doesn't count. So I'll take that. So my streak is still intact right now, according to her. So I'm gonna let that go as it is.
The only opinion that matters, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk. I'm one of those playoff teams for sure. But take me through, first you said you made your debut in 2015, first game in Arizona. What was it like getting that call? How did you kind of find out? How ecstatic were you? And how well do you remember that first game in the big leagues?
I remember that game very vividly because it was so bad. But the phone call I got, like I said, like we had finished the season because we went to the playoffs. So they called a couple guys up, like back in the day, you know how you get more room on the September roster and things like that. They called a couple guys up September 1st, and a lot of us thought that we were going to be part of that call up, but our AAA team had made the playoffs. So some guys were like, okay, we're not going to get called up now. But then when they did call up certain guys, we were all like, okay, I guess none of us are getting called up because like none of the rest of the guys that had good years are getting called up because why wouldn't you just call all of us up at the same time? Like it didn't make sense. So we finished the playoffs like a week later or whatever else. And then it's literally playoffs are done and most normal teams, when you're done with the playoffs or whatever your last game is, right after that, they have a list of who's getting called up. And so the manager calls everybody into the office one by one or whatever else and starts calling people in. But they waited literally, I think it was the next day or maybe a day and a half later, and they called me. And I was luckily just still in El Paso hanging out, just getting my stuff together because I normally like to take a day after the season, just kind of reflect before I hop on a flight and go back home. I like to just kind of enjoy the moment and enjoy the city without having to,
Yeah.
really like play baseball and like do anything stressful. So I was there and then I got the phone call. I think I was heading back to the hotel to get ready for dinner. And then I got the phone call and I remember him saying, hey, like how long has it been that you've been in the minors? And I was like, I think 8 years or something like that. I was like, yeah, like 8 years. He's like, yeah, you've been having some great years and we appreciate everything you did this year and want to let you know that, you know, we want to call you up and want you to come to Arizona. Like, where are you at right now? And I was like, my first initial thought was like, why didn't you call me yesterday when you knew where everybody was? And I was actually on the phone, the other line with my ex-wife at the time too. So like I had to click back over like, yo, I got to call you later. But like, um, I got the phone call and then right after I talked to the assistant GM at the time, I talked to him and then I called my parents, called my ex-wife, and then I was on my way to Arizona literally like an hour and a half later. So it was fun.
So what's that process? I've always been curious, like, what is that process like? Like the step by step, like, okay, you get the phone call, right? They say, hey, you're going to Arizona. What do you do from there? Do you like just run home, grab a bag, and jump on a plane? And Are you doing like, is there anything else you do when you get to the ballpark? Obviously, it's your first time there. What's going on
Well,
there?
luckily, I got they had an off day in Arizona the next day, I think it was. So, because they asked me like, you can fly into Arizona tonight, or you can fly in tomorrow morning and meet the team, and I was just like, I'm already in El Paso. Like Arizona's like an hour flight. Like I'd rather go spend time in Arizona than El Paso tonight. So I went, hopped on the flight. Well, I got the phone call. Like I said, I called my parents, called my family, called the ex-wife. Just I had all my stuff packed already because we had just finished the season, so all my stuff was with me in the hotel. So I literally just got on the flight. Like it was just terrible. I was like, luckily, like I had a good teammate who bailed me out. Like
Yeah.
I played with Marcus Mateo on the Cubs teams before. We played on a couple other teams before. I think I played against him in winter ball as well. But he came in and saved me, and I didn't. Luckily, we didn't lose the game. And I had some more big league innings after that.
No, yeah, you had what, six games? That's pretty good. I
Yeah,
mean, in September especially.
yeah,
It's nothing to shake a stick at. I want to talk about. So I read a little bit on your Wikipedia as well, and they said it made it sound like you requested your release from San Diego so you could go play Japanese baseball. Is that correct?
yeah. That's
So
correct.
how come you did that? That's not a common way to go about things.
Well, you have to actually, the technicality is you have to ask for release. If you look at a lot of guys that go over to Asian countries and play, it's you have to ask for a release and then you go through release waivers. And then if nobody picks you up, then they can actually, like, then you're free to go to the team because the teams hold your rights. But in this particular situation, I'm actually going to talk about it, I guess, when my biography actually comes out in the next couple of years too.
Oh yeah,
Um, and I'm going to talk about it probably in the podcast some too, just about like how guys are treated throughout the process and like spring trainings and stuff. But and then even with the Asian contracts, my agent had actually asked the Padres to release me like I think one or two times before that. Them and the Padres, my agent, the team from Japan, and the Padres are all in negotiations. And the Padres had actually said no, I think one or two times before they actually let me go.
yeah,
And the thing was like they had talked to me and told me straight up that, hey, like, you have a good chance to make the big league team out of camp, but we're going to use your options the whole year. And I was like, I appreciate them being honest about it, but
yeah.
like, you're messing with my big league service time, one.
Mhm.
Two, you're messing with my money because like people don't understand that. Like, once you get called up, if you get sent back down, your whole salary changes every time you get sent up and down. It doesn't just stay at the big league level where you're like, okay, the guy's making 750 in the big leagues, but then he gets sent down to the AAA or whatever. You might be sitting at like, okay, now you're from 750 a year to 65 grand a year. So the pay scale is
Yeah.
drastically different. So when I got the opportunity to go to Japan, it was okay. I was guaranteed my money the whole time, and I was going to have a chance to be an important part of a team, in a team that was close to being in the playoffs and close to winning a championship already too. So all those factors, me and my agent were like, hey, you have to let me like go at least experience this. Like you're holding me back from like doing things in my career that are going to be necessary just so you can technically use my option.
Yeah. So on top of obviously going over there, you're gonna have a chance to compete with a real championship team. Um, was there like a developmental aspect to it for you as well? Obviously, you're still like a younger player. I mean, you're 27, but you are a rookie. Did you see there was like a big developmental benefit for you as a player over there? Is it different how they do things over there?
It's a little different, but I tell people because of all the leagues I've played in for like my whole career, like I've been everywhere, I feel like
Yeah.
that at the end of the day, it's all playing baseball. It's all technically just getting 27 outs the best way you can with having least like more runs than the other team and you stopping the other team from scoring runs, right? But they focus more on the fundamentals and playing small ball, whereas over here, we're all about home runs and strikeouts more times than
Yeah.
not, which is go over there. It wasn't much of a developmental thing as okay, these guys don't chase as much, so I just have to be around the zone more. I have to be in the zone more. So you could take it as you have to make the adjustment where you don't, because I see a lot of guys go over there and keep their same mentality from here, and then they end up walking a lot of guys over there not making that adjustment, and then they get sent home and wonder why. Even though you have good stuff and the guys are swinging and missing, but there's enough guys over there that are very patient that it just they don't like the way it looks more than I guess the effect
Yeah,
of
and I'm
myself.
curious too. Obviously, the game's a little different, and then you're in, literally another part of the world. What is that like culturally? I don't know if you had a chance to travel a lot before then, but spending 3 years over there, what's that like? And also, having a family and everything. What is that whole process like, and what is it like to experience that for that long period of time?
It was amazing for me. Like I had a blast over there. The cultural differences, like you can always different parts that you can find like enough American or English things to do. People that speak English. I had a whole friendship group that were like half Japanese, half American, or half Japanese, half like European. So we were all like hanging out together. So we were all going to different things, and they were introducing me to people and taking me places where I could feel more comfortable. And being over there, being a baseball player is a lot more glamorous than being a baseball player over here. Like we are known for like making money and like playing baseball and stuff like that, but like over there, like you're like basketball and football players. Like people actually like know who you are everywhere you go. It doesn't matter what city you go to or anything like that, which is awesome. But like it's a respect and appreciation thing. So you get treated a little differently, but like I had a blast just because I got to experience so much stuff and go to different places and get introduced to so many people that I had a blast. Like some guys go over there with the wrong attitude, obviously, and hate it. But
Yeah.
if you embrace it and take it in and take it for what it's worth, it was an amazing experience for me.
Did you take anything valuable from there, like a training regimen or just like anything? Favorite food, maybe?
Favorite food, I think the Korean barbecue phase that came over here, it came
Oh yeah.
after I left over there, but the Korean barbecue over there is called yakiniku. But like the restaurants for yakiniku over there they had so many compared to here, but also the quality of the food over there in those restaurants were so much better. Like their food for me is so much better than ours, and and then also the ramen. The ramen restaurant food is
Oh
fantastic too.
That yeah,
yeah.
that's the good
So
selling point, right? To players who maybe are hesitant to go over there, like, hey, the food's really good. Always, yeah,
food
yeah.
is fantastic.
So,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alex.
Mhm. I was just gonna ask, like, what about like a training regimen or something like that? Did they teach you anything?
No, it was more we got to do our own things because they bring us. I tell guys like this: if you're gonna go play over there and they ask you to play over there, you have to understand like you're going over there to like add to their team pretty much. So they treat us like we're the Avengers, kind of. So like, they treat us like superheroes. Like you're going to pitch in every game. You're supposed to hit 1,000 home runs. You're supposed to hit 400. You're supposed to strike everybody out. You're supposed to make sure that like nobody ever scores a run. I think there was a time like I got sent to the minors down there,
Hmm.
and I literally got sent to the minors because I gave up like three or four runs. I had like 3 games in a row that I gave up a run or something like that. And it was like the first time I had given up runs in like 3 straight games in like I think the whole season. But so that one week they just sent me to the minors because they're like, oh, poor performance. I'm like, so you're taking just this one week compared to like the whole past 2 months. Like you realize I could possibly be tired too, right? You've used me every day. Like 'cause I tell guys, the way we throw here is like playoff baseball over there all the time. Like there's plenty of weeks where you only play. It's like the minor leagues here now, or the foreign leagues where you only play you have every Monday off, so you play 6 games a week. There's plenty of times I threw 5 out of 6 games in a week. Like
Jeez,
people don't
they
understand that.
were
Like so, it's
riding you. Oh my
yeah,
Yeah,
goodness.
so yeah,
I, as a fan, when I see that, I get angry. I can't imagine as a player. I know that like the competitor, and you always wants to be able to go out there, but man, the usage, it's like 162 games. Like you gotta have a fresh arm.
yeah. Like my first year over there, I think I had like 60 plus games, of 60 plus appearances, and people don't understand. Like as a reliever, you have 60 plus appearances. That's not counting how many ups you have,
Mhm.
not how many dry humps you have, how many times you probably might have won in the game. Because
Yeah.
if you count all those, it was probably over 90, 100. And then that same year when I had those more than that, I pitched in every game in the playoffs, I think, but one. So luckily, again, baseball fans over there are a little bit more hardcore than baseball fans here.
Mhm.
So when that happened and we ended up losing in the Japan series, and I had a terrible Japan series, like terrible. But like all the fans were like, "Yeah, it was probably because like you got overworked," and I was like, "It honestly, I was tired." Like, and they like respected that a lot because like I literally pitched, I think in every game but one, so like 13 out of like
Oof.
14 games or something like that.
They're smarter than American fans. A lot of American fans won't recognize something like that.
100%. They really don't. It's crazy to think about, but like, yeah, because like I came back the next year, and I thought all the fans were gonna be pissed off at me because like I lost, like I was like 0-2 in the Japan series, like win loss record, and all the fans were like, "No, we appreciate you so much. Thanks for being back. Like you had a great year. Like don't worry about the Japan series. That's the manager's fault." Like I was like, "All right, like, appreciate it."
What's one thing you would take from the Japanese game and maybe bring it into the United States? It could be anything from maybe concessions. Maybe they serve different
Oh yeah,
concessions.
their concession stands, like I think their concession stands were marketed better because like each player, like especially the foreign players, had like their own food
Oh, that's
like
awesome.
in the ballpark.
That's awesome.
And so we didn't get like cuts of it, but we got to like choose like what we want our food to be. They would come like talk to us and do stuff like that. But other than that, I would say I like the indoor bullpen sometimes, depending on the stadiums and stuff. But like I like the outdoor bullpens too. I just don't like the bullpens being on the field at certain places.
Oh, like
So
in the
like
Trop.
other,
Yeah, Wrigley
yeah,
Field.
that's terrible. Oakland, well, Oakland's no more, but Oakland, like yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
R.I.P. Yeah, R.I.P. to
So,
Oakland.
so you get to spend 3 years over there. Obviously, it sounds like you had a great experience. What's the process of coming back to the Brewers in 2019? I mean, did they reach out to you? How did that come to be that you came back to play in the U.S.?
My off season that year honestly was a shit show. Like honestly, because I had pitched so well in Japan that I thought I was going to have more offers than I did. But going into that year, the Japanese team felt like they had some prospects that were better than me. They had actually offered me a contract before that season, an extension, like a 2-year extension, but the extension ended up totaling kind of almost less than what I could make the next year that was guaranteed in my contract that they had picked up anyway. It was almost less than what I could make like that year guaranteed plus my incentive. So I said no. And so they kind of, instead of like, they treated me like an out, not like an outcast completely, but like you could tell like they didn't want me anymore. Like they had some younger guys coming like, oh, they can do your job. And they started taking me off a lot of stuff and like adding me to a lot of stuff, like promo stuff and things of that nature. And I ended up getting hurt a little bit that year and sent down, and I didn't have as many innings. I think I ended the year with like 45 innings or something like that. But I ended up with like a hamstring strain too that cost me some time, and I ended up with my ERA creeping up a little bit that year. That was my highest ERA I think I had, and I think I ended up with like a 2.7. And so they didn't re-sign me. And then that year was a year that I became a free agent finally. And then I ended up hearing that there was rumors going around. So I didn't hear from any Japanese teams, and I thought I would for sure would have. And didn't hear from any Japanese teams, and was just waiting around here, trying to hear from some big league teams, hopefully getting a big league offer. Since again, like most guys that have the years that I had in Japan normally received a big league deal or a big league guarantee with similar numbers. So I was
Yeah.
hopefully hearing some of that, and heard nothing, heard crickets till literally, I think it was a week, less than a week before spring training started. And the Brewers reached out, and my agent and the Brewers got something done together. And I literally was in Japan. They told me they needed me there like in 2 days, and flew from Japan all the way back to Arizona in 2 days to make sure I was there for the first day of camp and everything. And then just literally like hit the ground running. Didn't have any like, they took it kind of light on me, but they really were just like, nah, like I wasn't a really thought of that team. So they just kind of used me how they wanted to. That's kind of been my whole career. I've never truly been a guy that like has had a home somewhere. That's
Yeah.
been the worst. I think that's been the worst part about it, and that's like not irked me, but I wish I could have. Is that every team I've kind of gone to, I've always not been the like first depth option that they've wanted to have. I've just kind of worked my way and kind of like outshined a couple other guys, some of their guys, and like gotten lucky to be on the radar then and then. It's like, okay, well, we got to figure out if we could actually use them or not type thing. But it's never been like I've had a
Yeah,
true
and
home, I
speaking
felt
of,
like.
I was going to ask you. Speaking of home, it's like, okay, it's one thing they say, "Hey, we need you on a flight from Texas to Arizona," but it's like, "Hey, get on a flight from Japan to Milwaukee." Are you renting a place over there? Does the team put you up? How does the whole housing thing work? I've always wondered with players, constantly on the move. Well, do you have to break a lease, or what happens there?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you're at. Like a lot of times there's a lot of companies now. There's a company, shout out to Clubby, actually. It's a company run by this guy and his mom, I think. And they're in the process of building it up where they're offering guys furnished apartments and short-term rentals and stuff like that, where they can break the lease if they get traded or stuff like that. But a lot of times you're on your own when you go to certain cities. Like they have places, the team will have like connections with places, but they're not housing you. They are now in the minors, which is what that CBA and the minor league thing happened with all that.
Yeah.
But even with that, they only house guys up to if you're making a certain thing per month, a certain salary per month. After that, like you're on your own again. So if you get lucky and find a short term rental place, you can do that. Some guys Airbnb. There's been a lot of years where since of how crazy our travel was, I would literally just stay at like long term stay hotels, like close to the hotel and just they would hook us up on like I would get my own deals hooked up with them to like be able to stay at those places and then just stay there. And then when we're gone for the week, move out or whatever, take my stuff to the stadium, or they would store my stuff in the room and make sure nobody else would take it or go in the room or whatever. And then like have it like that the whole year because you never know if you're going to be in that city the whole year. You might be there for 2 weeks. You might be there for like, so yeah, they have clauses where they have to pay for your apartments if you break your lease or something like that. But you have to go through like asking extra people and this, that, and the third, and half the time, like you might get it, you might not. Like they might disagree with a certain point, like of the contract, and then like you're stuck with it. So it's just it's normally not worth it to like get a place unless you know you're gonna be there forever.
Yeah.
Well, for a while at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mike, I know I think we're at a good spot to move towards your time with the Giants because he's very interested in
Yeah,
that
that
team
year. Yeah,
specifically.
I
That
mean,
was a out of out of
yeah,
nowhere run.
107 wins. I mean, that's the one year in the last now 12 seasons that Dodgers did not win
12
the
seasons, yeah.
National League West. I mean, I watched a lot of, and I'm not necessarily by nature a Giants fan, but I became one watching that team, and it just seemed like magic. I mean, you had Gabe Kapler leading the way. I'm just curious to kind of what was the vibe of that team like? What was it? Just take us through that ride that whole season.
We were just having Well, it's crazy because this is what I actually talked about for my keynote at Sac State, since it should be
Yeah.
a Giants fan base, right? So, but that spring training, I actually
Wow.
tore my hamstring completely and it like retracted up. So I missed the first half of that year. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like I had a, an out clause for me either going to the majors or being or like me taking my release July 15th. I had just came back from my injury, like tearing my hamstring completely and just getting back on a mound. I think June 28th was like my first like AAA game. So I only had 2 weeks before like I got called up again and I saw how the team was doing. So and I pitched well for those 2 weeks, like week and a half or whatever, and they called me back up and then just being up there, it was just again, like you said, it was magic. We were just playing baseball. It was fun. Like it wasn't everybody knew their job. And so it just flowed easily. Like we were in a good city. San Francisco, the Giants fans are unbelievable. They're diehard fans out there. All Bay Area sports fans for every team. They're unbelievable out there. I give them credit for that. But things just were it was one of those years where everything was just rolling in the right way. We had such a good fun team. The vibes were good. It was a lot of positivity floating around that like everything just started staying positive the whole time. It was just a snowball effect and it just got to that point where we just magic
Yeah, and I
happened.
know it was Buster Posey's last year. I know that must have been cool. And I'm curious. I
Yeah.
want to be respectful of time, but I'm just curious. You've obviously played with so many different players, coaches, managers. Who are you? Just give us a few stories and maybe who your favorite teammates were, or who you stay in touch with. Just curious to hear.
I mean, I stay in touch with random guys throughout the seasons and stuff like that. But like I said, I never like got to like grow up with those guys like a lot of the teams have. So I try to just impact the guys whenever I can and whatever guys I can. One of the guys that I don't play with, but again, he's my co-host, Trayvon. I talk to Trayvon, and then some of the guys I keep up with Alex Dickerson from time to time. That's one of my good friends. Um, let's see. I talk to Vladdy every now and then when he remembers me and stuff like that. But I love Vladdy. Like that whole Toronto Blue Jays team was just amazing. I think that's probably because of just everything I went through with that team. Like that was more like the closest family I had. But that Giants team, we had so many older guys on that team that we all got kind of dispersed after that. So you didn't get to see a lot of those guys, and everybody had families and stuff. So there wasn't like we would hang out after games and stuff, like just in the locker room for like a couple minutes, and then everybody's gone because you have families. But I think like when I was younger, I still talk to Edwin Jackson every now and then. I still talk to Dontrell Willis from time to time. You
Mm.
know, just random guys through like. I'm one of the guys that I feel like guys reach out to me when they need stuff. And that's what I want it to be more than, sticking around and like being in people's business and like, having stories. Like all the stories I have are like me making sure guys are like okay, like making sure I'm taking care of like the younger guys, especially since like you said, like I got to the big leagues a little older, and then once I started being in the big leagues more, I was like one of the older guys. So it was me just always trying to help. Like probably my phone, most of the guys I have are like younger guys, so they just call me with questions if they need them and things like that. But no good stories for a podcast for sure. Like my
Yeah.
favorite ones are not for podcast material, I would say, but just baseball guys, people don't realize 90% of baseball guys are good guys. Like it takes a lot to play as long as you do for a season and to be part of that family where you really don't see your family as much, that like you have to grow with those guys and love those guys, and you have to love what you do, and you have to be pretty humble, as baseball is a humbling sport as well. So the fact that all of that, I just have good relationships with probably 90% of the guys. And I know my fiance keeps up with some of the wives too, so that just shows you, and they still check on us, that like even like it's just good guys all around in baseball and their families as
Yeah,
well.
my final quick question, and because you've gotten to play in so many cities now, I don't want to sway you. I lived in Toronto, love that city, but I'm curious your favorite U.S. city that you've played in. Well,
I
I'm
was
sorry,
gonna say cities in general, because
yeah, I said
Toronto's
U.S.
probably in
cities.
my
I meant
top
North
two,
American. Sorry.
just because of, yeah, I was about to say because Toronto's probably in the top two, just for the simple fact that like the people there, with everything I went through, the people and the team and the support and the love that those people out there showed me, and how they packed the stadium out, and how much they do love the Blue Jays out there,
Yeah.
and just how diverse that city is. Like the kindness that you see from people there, even though Canadians get a lot of crap right now from Americans about
Yeah.
being soft and everything, you can do both, and people don't understand that. Like having diversity and being kind to people, you can still have that and still be tough and want your own things and things of that nature as well. But Toronto is definitely up there. And then I think San Diego, even though I didn't get to be there long, just the weather and the vibes and the people there, that's probably my favorite US city,
Mhm.
like of all of them anyway. So playing there was just, I think that was the best thing that could have ever happened, is that was the first city I got to play in. So I still have a lot of friends from San Diego, but those are my top two, I would say. And then fiance loves Minnesota because of, we've got some friends out there, and during the summer, that place, like the weather up there during the summer was unbelievable. But it's a Midwestern summer. Midwest has great summers for
Yeah.
sure. So those are the top three I would say so far. Not team wise, but city wise, I would say those are the top three for sure.
I'm curious, what about a fan interaction? Something like that just sticks out. You ever have someone yelling at you in the bullpen? Like,
That that happens more than I would like to see. I think the one time, like I vividly remember it, was like, and because I normally try to not say anything and be that guy that tunes it out and just laughs, and like
yeah.
because they try to teach us to be professional and stuff like that. And sometimes you can, sometimes you don't want to. But I said something back to one guy one time, because it was when fight necklaces were all the rage, and I always
Oh,
had fight necklaces,
I
and
love those.
I think I had a light blue one and a pink one, and I think I intertwined them, or I had both of them on, and they were both for my son. And like my son was actually in Japan at the time, because I have a son in Japan and a son here,
Mhm.
and he didn't get to make the trip to spring training with me, so I would wear the fight necklaces as like something for him. And so the dude just started chirping and saying something about the necklaces, and then I just said something back and shut him up. And then my coach was like, "Jake, you can't say anything. Like that's why we're professionals. And like that's one of the last times like I've ever said anything to a fan. Like every now and then, like we'll goof off with fans and stuff and things of that nature. Because I mean, some fans are cool, but you get some that are jerks too. Like you probably have more good fan interactions than bad ones. Because I always try to, especially on the weekends and stuff when they have day games, I try to stay out and sign from time to time too. So those are always good, positive fan interactions for sure.
Has there ever been like a memorable line from a fan? Like maybe they're trying to roast you and they just have a really good burn, something like that.
No, like I try to like honestly like ignore them so I don't hear a lot of
Oh,
them.
you
But like
just tune
I
it out. Yeah.
I try to tune it out, but like nobody's really like, and this is terrible to say. Like I've heard some good ones for like other guys because like I'm normally the guy that like doesn't like
Mm.
get a lot of attention. So like I'm normally like on the bottom of the depth chart, so they don't worry about like normally it's like the closer and the set of guys that or the guys that are hot at the time getting roasted more than I am or stuff like that. So I haven't really got it too bad. Maybe one of these days, like and especially like when I was actually like playing well in Japan, I never got roasted because the Japanese fans are so much nicer than our fans. They
Yeah.
don't roast us at all. They cheer us on more than actually roasting us, which is it's a wonder how that works, right?
I
Your fans
remember,
support you instead
yeah,
of dogging you. It's wonder
who would
surprising,
have thought that would work, you know?
right? Like Trey Turner,
Yeah.
like think about it. Trey Turner, prime example, right? You
Yeah.
go from booing this man and him struggling, then all of a sudden, let's turn it
Yeah.
around one day. Let's cheer him on. And what happens? He goes off. Like surprising,
Positive reinforcement is good for the human
surprising how that
brain.
works.
Man,
Surprising how
yeah.
that works,
I
right?
was happy to, especially Philly. I mean, if there's ever, a fan base that wanted to show that it can be nice, it was good to see.
They,
Yeah.
I think they needed to do that more than any other fan base too. Probably. I mean, if you
Right.
boost Santa
Right.
Claus, then you got it.
Yeah. I was at the Trop. It was Red Sox Rays. This was probably 6 or 7 years ago, and I remember a
Yeah.
Rays fan chirped Johnny Gomes for his
Oh,
heart condition that he has, and he has to take
That's
medicine.
what
I
I'm
was like,
saying.
"How'd you even know that?" I was like, "I don't even know if it was me, I wouldn't even be mad because I'd just be like, how'd you know that? You got some sort of connection here. That's just a good
Yeah, it's just
burn."
it's like you're doing too much. Like you're doing too much though. Like because I think Burns like if you're talking about the game or my game or something like that, like that's acceptable.
Yeah,
But like once you go like again heart conditions or like personal
it's
stuff, like
weird.
I feel like it's weird, but it's like for me, it's like if you're starting to get personal, like that should allow me to truly like just go in the stands and beat your ass at that point. Because
Yeah,
like at that point, like you're
malice at the
not talking
palace.
about the game anymore. Yeah, like you're not talking about the game anymore. You know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah,
actually doing personal attacks, which is you wouldn't say that if I
right.
saw you in the street, probably because if you
Oh,
did, you know the consequences would be different. That's why I'm like, okay, you keep it like, oh, you suck, or you did this, you did that in the game, or whatever else, or if it's something like actually funny, like something
yeah.
stupid off the field that's not like an actual like serious thing that could be misconstrued where like okay like that's something like that actually could offend somebody then like yeah like I'm all for those but like our fans and a lot of Americans just in general try to go to the most negative place possible and
Yeah.
that's what they bring
Yeah. I
out.
would love to hear like
Mhm.
funny, clever stuff. Like, you can't cook, you burn your toast at home, Jay.
Yeah,
Like, have some fun with it. Never, ever cross those personal lines.
yeah, exactly, like and for that like other than that that's cool because I mean I've had a few instances of having those happen. Not I've had more than a few. Um, they've gotten swept under the rug a couple times, and I mean, even last 2 years ago when I was with the Blue Jays and the whole Aaron Judge thing happened, the amount of New
Oh
York
yeah,
Yankees fans that I heard from, and the amount of crap I heard from these fans because it was Aaron Judge too. At that was unbelievable. It was unacceptable. Like I had like female Yankees fans talking trash. I'm like, woman, you can't even throw a baseball. Like, how are you even talking trash? Like, what are you saying? Like,
yeah,
you didn't need help tipping pitches. I was like, but the fact is, I was like, y'all are missing the point. Like, I'm not denying that he didn't hit the home run. I'm admitting that. I'm admitting that I made the mistake too. But you're missing the point that like he had help. You act like he's a superhero. He's not. Like, he had help from me, from his coach. Like, he didn't do it by himself. Like, and that's cool. Like, I respect it. Like, it's part of the game. It's a game within a game. Like, I got to be better But do I think it was bullshit? Like, yes, because the way his coach was doing it was absolute bullshit. But other than that, like, I've never said anything else about it. Like, he's a great hitter. He hit a home run. Wow. He hit what, 50, 58 more this year. Oh wow. This year I struck him out. Is anybody gonna say anything about that? No. Like, nobody gives a shit.
You
Like,
can. This is your spot. This is your spot to say it. Dance on him. Say I struck you
nah,
out. This is your spot. We want to
it's
hear it.
cool. No, it's cool because I see him during the off season. He trains over in Tampa, like in some of the places I do.
Yeah.
So like again, like he's a good dude. Like he's a great baseball player. Like he did his job.
Yeah.
Hats off. Like hats off. You did your job. Like I did mine this year. Hats off. Like I guarantee you, like if I have to face him more times than not, like I'm probably gonna have the upper hand just by law of averages. But he's gonna have a couple games where he does that. Like,
Yeah.
oh well, you take it with a grain of salt. But it's fans being fans.
Yeah, my dad always said he was never a fan of booing anyways. He would get mad at me if I did try even when I was a kid. He was like, "Well, that's not respectful." And he would also
Exactly.
say,
Yeah.
"You're not
Right.
can you throw a faster fastball than this guy? Can you hit a home run? No, then you can't boo. You have no place to
Yeah,
boo
I
them."
can tell you, Jay, I play in the rec leagues. I top out around 52, 53. My body hurts for days. So I don't know how you guys do it in, mid 90s, 100 mile. It just blows me away. So
Yeah.
I'm certainly never one to talk smack about anybody in that regard.
I
No,
did
I
speed
appreciate
pitch
it.
at the fair, and my arm was just
Yeah.
like throbbing. I think I touched like
Dang, all right.
65, maybe 70, and that's the fair. You don't even know what they're doing.
But they really, yeah, no, no, but it's just like again, like, and I think every athlete would honestly, truly say that like we respect fans that respect us to understand that like yes, we're doing what we love to do and we're doing it at a high level and like understand that like the work that it truly takes to get here. It's not just the talent level that God blessed us with this, is He blessed us with it, but at the same time, like we just didn't let it sit around and do nothing. We had to put a lot of
Yeah.
work in to get here. Like, and just respect that. Like, we don't go to your jobs and boo you when you don't do your fucking job properly and like whatever
When you
else. Like,
forget
you
to
know what I mean?
submit
So
Yeah.
that tax form,
yeah, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, or like anything. Like, we just don't like have respect for everybody's job, regardless of what.
Well, before we move into the NFL, we're gonna do NFL picks as long as you're good with that. I want
Oh
to
yeah.
ask, what's next for you? What's next for the career? Do you have any prospects at the moment? I know it's late in the year, so it's probably less than likely getting any calls from anyone. But what's next?
Well, yeah, the big league season really just ended, and then so all the teams are going to be in their phases of figuring out who they're going to sign, what they're going to do. The GM meetings are, I think, the end of this month, the middle of this month. So I think my agent's going to go out. I think he's heard from a couple teams already, from what I've heard from him, just because
Nice.
of how this year ended and everything like that, with just me having to go through rehab now and rehabbing because of having the PRP in my knee and my shoulder, and it not really getting a lot of like notice or anything. Like nobody really knows what happened. People, it's just like kind of just fell through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
So once like I think he's explained it to teams and teams know what's going on, then I think I'll have some prospects and we'll see what happens. But like I said, I just did my first keynote. I've actually got a book coming out on 11/11, so
Nice.
that's in the works. I'm
What's the
gonna do
title? Do you
that.
have a title? I assume.
The title is called Nine Innings
Mm.
to Your Best Life.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
Um,
like it.
Achieve success with a smile. So we're gonna have that out. Been working on that all year. Been putting a lot more work into it over the past couple months while I've been rehabbing. So that'll be out in November. And just speaking to teams, speaking to businesses, doing motivational speaking, just kind of because people said they want to hear my story, and I feel like I can help. I'm just kind of following whatever path is laid out in front of me right now, and it seems that people want to hear my story and just hear my words of just positivity and kind of that's my whole thing, is just preaching positivity and happiness and smiles and doing the best we can to make our lives better. Because if we make our lives better, and in turn, we're going to make other people's lives better. So I feel like just the positivity snowball can help and just keep it rolling. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Maybe I'll hear something about coaching possibly down the line. Who knows? Like I said, I'm enjoying what the world has right now. I'm happy. I'm with the fiance and son and family and everything like that, enjoying just everything that's coming to me. I'm not just too stressed out about it. So whatever's next is gonna be whatever makes me happy, I feel like, more than anything else,
I would
which is gonna be
say,
helping other people.
yeah, I would say 2 countries, 6 different cities in the Major League Baseball.
17
People want
years,
to hear your
man.
story. A 10-year career, more than 10
Yeah,
years, you're 17. People want to hear your story
it's
100%.
yeah, it's
So,
awesome. You know, yeah, I
so
was
yeah,
gonna
I'm
say,
looking
like,
forward to it.
again, people, they may know, the biggest names, the Aaron Judges, Shohei Ohtani's. Everyone's got a story to tell. I'm always fascinated. And man, 17 years in professional baseball, that is just so cool. And I'm
Yeah.
really grateful that you came on and shared
Yeah.
all this with us.
No, for sure. Anytime. Like I said, I'm always here. Like I said, if my story can help somebody or if just my positivity or energy can resonate with somebody else, and if it helps one person, then for me, that's all that matters. Like I said, when this book comes out, if one person takes it and makes their lives better, then then it was worth it. Just like yesterday when I did the speech, I was like, if one person, like, it was my really like true first time like saying like my story, get my message out, but like I was like, if one person takes something positive from this and it helps them going forward, then it did what it was supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So, and I had a couple people come up to me afterwards and say, "Hey, like, we really appreciate it. That was a strong message, and we enjoyed it." So it was about it was about hope, and I told them that hope for me stands for having optimum positivity every day. So I hope people took it for what it was worth. That's what I'm doing right now, just giving people hope.
Love that. That's awesome. That is amazing. So let's jump in to the NFL. We're gonna pick our
Yeah.
games. We're gonna go around. Everyone will give me one sentence on why they think this team is gonna win that game. Buys this week. This is the first week of buys to the audience. If you
Ooh. Okay.
forgot about that, buys suck. I know. We have less football. Lions, Titans, Eagles, and Chargers are on a bye. But let's start with Thursday night. Bucks and Falcons. Kirk and Baker. And we're going to start with you, Jay. Who's going to win and why?
God, that's tough because I live down in Florida and I live in Tampa Bay area and I like huge Mike Evans fan. Huge Mike Evans. I try to get him on my fantasy teams every year. You can
It's
always
worth it.
guarantee Mike Evans to do work. But the way the Falcons have been playing, I'm going to Falcons. I'm gonna say it's a close one, but the Falcons by a field goal.
Mike, where
Well,
are you at?
it's tough because it seems like every Falcons game this year has been super close. But I'm on that Baker Mayfield train. I mean, he's just giving him kind of new energy. It is really a toss up game, so I'm gonna go with the Bucks.
Falcons failed to get in the end zone on offense this past week, which is very worrying for me. They've been kind of 50-50. I'm rolling with the Bucks. I'm rolling with Baker. I think they're going to keep going. That loss to Denver felt like a slight hiccup in an otherwise pretty good season for them. So give me the Bucks. To Sunday, the London game, the first international game. I despise.
Yeah,
Me and Mike both despise the international games just because
I
we're
want to go to one of
Americans.
them though.
I would
Well, I
go.
just want to go to one of them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I want to. I think my goal is to go to one of them eventually. I think since the fiance is a 49ers fan and our son is, I chalked up his NFL fandom to the 49ers. So if they have a game over there, another one over there somewhere, I guess we're probably going to try to make that trip sometime.
McCaffrey was over in Germany doing his Achilles thing, so you're very close, getting close. Jets and Vikings at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Jay, who do you got?
Oh, I got the Vikings for sure. Jets just, for some reason, I don't know, their offense can't get it together for God knows what reason. So, and the Vikings are the Vikings right now. Skull, skull. Like
Sam
I went to
Darnold
the
is
game.
possibly the MVP at this moment.
I went to the Vikings Texans game actually a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
and
so
I got
good.
to see them
Well,
play
you
in
saw a
person.
stinker, but a good one for the Vikings.
But that's what I'm watching how CJ Stroud and the Texans offense struggled against the Vikings that day. Like I'm going Vikings.
the
I'm out.
Vikings have some serious magic and mojo. Dare I say, maybe they're 2021 Giants kind of deal. We'll see. No, we don't want to give them. We don't want to give them that much
We'll
credit yet.
see.
But yeah, he's playing great football. The Vikings, just like you said, Jay, they've had some dominant performances, and Darnold's building confidence. And man, Kevin O'Connell, that guy can coach.
He can. People slip on him just because of some of the calls he's made over the previous year, but he has turned every person that's come in there into an offensive like juggernaut almost. And plus, granted, you have JJ over there too. You have JJ and Addison. Like
Those
those are
weapons
two
help.
top tier. Those two weapons right there help immensely. And then you have Aaron Jones now too. I don't think the Packers should have ever let go of Aaron Jones, but I get you guys, Josh Jacobs. But Aaron Jones is a dog.
He
That's a
is.
dog.
So I'm with you,
Absolutely.
Jay. Going Vikings.
I'm going against you guys. I'm
All
going
right.
the Jets. The conditions are perfect for Aaron Rodgers. Their offense seems to only work in the perfect conditions where it's no rain. They don't have to worry about the wind, nothing like that. And it's the Vikings. We got to remember Aaron Rodgers has a long history with the Vikings. And I just like that mojo. He's pretty much dominated that division for most of his career. I think he's going to keep doing the same, and I think they're going to move to 3-2. And they got to lose once, right? Like we can't have a 5-0 Vikings. That would be crazy.
I mean, I don't know. I see what you're saying just because Rodgers is probably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Like, just really based off of everything he's done. But
Pure mechanical, yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I just saw how the Vikings literally like took the Texans apart on offense.
It's hard to
Like,
pick against Brian Flores' defense. It
yeah.
really is. But I got to
People
do
don't
it.
understand how good he is. That's what I said. People don't understand how good Brian Flores is either.
Mm-hmm.
Such an like everything that happened with the Dolphins was kind of mismanaged, obviously, but like that, he's a hell of a coach.
Can I throw in one
Absolutely.
thing, Alex? Because
Yeah.
when you said perfect conditions for the Jets, I thought you meant that they're not at MetLife Stadium where he can't get booed and the fans can't get angry at him. So it might be the perfect storm for him to go overseas to play a game.
Yeah.
I can see that.
All right, Panthers Bears. Andy Dalton, revenge game against Chicago. He has a lot of revenge games. He's played on a lot of teams. Jay, where are you going?
I want to go Bears. I'm gonna go Bears. Caleb Williams, but Bears D. Bears D is always defense wins championships. Defense wins games. That's what. But Andy Dalton is just he gets the best out of every team he's played on, which is crazy to think about. But he's such a good quarterback. Veteran quarterbacks, as you've seen this season so far, have dominated each week they played. So I'm still gonna go Bears though. I'm gonna say Bears by like 4 or 5. Awkward number, but 4 or
Keep
5.
it close. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be close.
I like the Bears too. They're kind of just figuring it out. Young quarterback, a lot of expectations, but it's not like they're 0-4 and then everything feels like the pressure's building. I mean, they have a couple wins under their belt. And Carolina, look, they got that win. Shout out to Alex for calling that against the Raiders. Wasn't pretty. Yeah,
well, I did.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Nice.
I made sure to do a victory lap last week. It was awesome.
No.
I get a lot wrong, but when I get one right,
Gotta promote.
Gotta take it. You gotta take all the small victories.
And
right?
honestly, a big game last week for DeAndre Swift. So if he can keep that rolling, definitely going with the Bears here.
Caleb Williams looks better every week. He led 4 scoring drives last week. I'm going Bears. It seems too easy. Ravens, Bengals. This is a tough one.
This is a really tough one because the Bengals, for as bad as they've looked, they've also looked pretty good at times.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're
They've just
being
had
the
a
Bengals.
tough
understand it.
stretch. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And they're being the Bengals. They normally start clicking like middle to end of the year. A lot of times they normally have some rough starts, and Joe Burrow, but Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. And he's also got Derrick Henry. So I'm going Ravens. And they looked unstoppable last week. So I'm going Ravens for sure. And just honestly, I'm a Lamar Jackson fan. I want to see him win a Super Bowl. I hope he finally gets to that point. I think all the criticisms of him not being able to win the playoffs are fair, but I think he's still got a lot of career left. I think people are counting him out a little too early on him winning a Super Bowl, but I think that he's got a chance. I'm a huge fan of him, so I think they get it done. They go beat Burrow, and Ravens get back on track to them being the Super Bowl favorites, I believe.
I hope you're right, Jay. I grew up a Ravens fan from Baltimore. So, yeah, I mean, look, people are tough on Lamar. I get it. The playoffs hasn't been great. Peyton Manning, as Alex can attest, lost his first 3 playoff games. So it takes a little time sometimes. My one gripe, it's always been with the Ravens is they can look so good at times, but a lot of times it's more in the blowout games, and they've struggled a little bit when they get into these close games. The funny thing with Cincy is everyone's kind of like, oh, what's wrong with Cincy? But like you look at Burrow's numbers and like 7 TDs, 1 pick, almost 1,000 yards in the first 4 games, which isn't crazy number, but
defense.
It's efficient. And like the Bengals, they lost the game, was it last week, where they no punts and no turnovers, and first time in like 70, 80 years or something. I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think they get it done. I think they got some swagger back now. Road win over Dallas, big blowout win over the Bills. I think they can carry that momentum to Cincy.
I don't like Baltimore as a 2.5 point road favorite. I'm going to be honest. I really don't like that. I feel like the Ravens have a big primetime win. This is a little bit of a look ahead spot. I mean, it's hard to look ahead against a division rival.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's hard to look ahead, and Harbaugh normally has them ready too. So that's.
If I don't know, Michael would, I think, push back on you again with that one. He's not a fan of Harbaugh. So I'm going to listen to Michael, and I'm going to go with the Bengals on this one. I like the Bengals, especially at home. They need a win. I mean, this is you start 1-4, you're looking at, hey, start getting some draft capital for some of your guys, Jamar Chase wants a contract. He might have it with a new team.
Yeah, I see where you're going. Like you said, I just don't think that Harbaugh is going to let this one go, especially being a division opponent. It's too tough. And like you said, the Bengals D as of right now is trash.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't stop the Commanders, realistically, how are you going to stop Derrick Henry? Like, nobody's stopping.
Yeah,
Derrick Henry
I really didn't expect Henry to be as Derrick Henry-ish as he's been. I really thought there was going to be a steep drop off, but I've said that the last 3 years, and I've been wrong.
And I love, in a sense, that the Ravens are kind of leaning in. I mean, their identity has been to run the ball a lot. I mean, obviously Lamar can do so many different things with his arm and his legs, but they're like, well, let's keep rolling on this. I mean, that is how you win football games. You run the ball, you control the line of scrimmage. And the Ravens have a bunch of division games coming up, so I think they really want to get this one started out. They don't want to lose that first one.
This is a gross one. We don't even spend any time on this. Yeah. Dolphins, Patriots. There's nothing going on.
Wow, that is terrible. Dolphins. Just because they have more weapons. That's it.
They do, but I want to just take the Pats because they had a big win in Cincy week 1 and they haven't won since. Just, again, you flip a coin. I'll just go Pats at home.
I'll ride with the Dolphins here.
The Pats defense though is tough, but like I don't think the Pats D can really stop Tyreek and Waddle and H. That's too many weapons. Like the Cincy game, I think T was out that game too, right? So they didn't. Yes. They could.
Yeah.
I think they could. Their defense could have more of a specific scheme. I think with the weapons they have, if the Dolphins use the weapons properly with the quarterback they have at the helm right now, they'll be fine. They're not using Hunt the way they should right now.
He's a very serviceable backup who will
most
likely protect the game.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. You saw it. He did his job multiple times. It's just you gotta scheme and do the things that are gonna fit your team with him running the scheme right now. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna go terrible game for the Dolphins and the Pats, but Dolphins. Yeah, Dolphins.
That one's gross. Browns Commanders in Washington.
Commanders. Just I don't know what the Browns' problem is. Like I don't understand. I think that everything that's happened with Deshaun has completely messed him up mentally. Like he can't play his same style of ball because I feel like as an athlete too, if this happens, like you feel like if you do too well, then more stuff's gonna happen at this point. So you don't want to do too well because then something else might happen. If you're in the news for something good, then everything negative is gonna come with it again. So I don't know. I think he's just in an awkward spot, and he either needs to get out of Cleveland, which nobody wants. Nobody wants to take him because of how he's playing.
Oh, and that contract.
But I think if he goes to, that's what I'm saying. Just the way he's playing with Well, with the contract, I think if he was playing halfway decent with the way and like all his other quarterback contracts are going, somebody would be willing to take a chance on because they can see his arm strength and see his decision making and things of that nature to put him in a scheme and a system where he can be successful. Because honestly, I think the best trade that could happen right now is you get Deshaun to go to Carolina and you take Bryce and just send him to Cleveland. Because then Deshaun's closer to home. He can be with people that can keep accountability for him and do things of that nature, and he might be able to turn the Panthers around. And you have Andy Dalton there too to help him to guide him into the system if you're going to keep Dalton there. But I think just mentally, like he's just got to get out of that, just out of the space he's at. So I'm definitely, and Jaden Daniels is just an absolute monster. So we're going to go Commanders for sure.
Yeah, I gotta stay with the Commanders. I mean, they're figuring stuff out. Cliff Kingsbury's pushing all the right buttons, and Daniels, I mean, he looks confident. You know, they're slinging the ball. He's taking control of the offense, and yeah, like you said, Jay, I don't know exactly what's going on with the Browns, but they look very disjointed right now.
It's
Yeah,
disheartening.
So,
It's disheartening, yeah. And like you said, Jaden Daniels is an absolute beast right now. He's leading the NFL as a rookie in what
yeah.
completion percentage. I mean,
He is the
like I said, you got
highest
Cliff Kingsbury.
like 4-game period for completion percentage ever, like in NFL history, and that's his first 4 games in the NFL. That's insane.
Yeah. And Kingsbury, like again, like people said, Cliff is getting to focus just on offense and he's working wonders. So
I'm going Commanders here. The Browns offense went to the casino after the first quarter last week, and I think they're going to be stuck there.
for sure, that's what I'm saying. Like, and that starts, it just starts with again, Deshaun. If your quarterback's not mentally where he needs to be, like it's tough to move the ball anyway.
Yeah.
So, and they have weapons. They have enough weapons to be good.
Mm-hmm. Amari Cooper's been pretty good. And I don't even think anyone would expect it. He's a weird guy. He's been in the league for like 15 years and he's only like 27. That's like the best description of him. I feel like he's been there for forever.
He's so good. He just low key gets his job done everywhere he goes, puts up solid numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody loves him. Like so.
Colts Jaguars in Jacksonville. I'll definitely be the last one on this because I'm a Colts fan. So
Flacco starting too, right?
I think Richardson's gonna start. I think they pulled him the second time.
No chance.
They pulled him because they didn't want him to get hurt again for a third time in that game.
There's no chance. If Flacco starts, Colts win. If he doesn't, Jags have it. That's the way I look at it. But if I have to go like off the top of my head, heart leaning, Colts got it. I'm gonna say the Colts take it. Colts D is very good. They figured out ways to win, even with Richardson playing the way he's been playing. So I'm going to go. And the Jags are still, I think they're still reeling a little bit. So I'm going to go, even though I love the Jags, I love Trevor Lawrence, huge Trevor Lawrence fan, huge ETN fan, huge Kristen Kirk fan for sure. But I just think that they haven't, they're not piecing it together this year. I think if they do, they're going to piece it together late in the season. And I think the Colts, with the momentum they have and having Flacco as their backup, if something does happen to Richardson early, which I could see possibly happening, then Flacco taking over, I feel like
he's a $5 million insurance plan. That's exactly why we have.
So I'm gonna go with the Colts. I'm gonna say it's pretty close still. It's gonna be one of those close games again, but I'm gonna say the Colts take it.
This is tough because I feel like Jacksonville has to win at some point. Are they that bad? But maybe it's like Jason. Maybe if Richardson plays, that actually favors Jacksonville. So I'm gonna ride with that. Colts defense has actually given up a lot of yards, but points wise, they haven't been too bad. So they've figured out how to kind of bend but don't break. But like I don't know. And at what point do we start saying if Jacksonville doesn't win and they go much longer without a W, if Peterson goes, what do they do with Trevor Lawrence long term?
He's got to go. You got it. Well, I'll let him tell his pick, but like for me, like you got to keep Trevor there. Like again, it's one of those things. Like where do you send him? Like who do you give him to? He's got an albatross of a contract too. His is worse than Deshaun's.
Where are you going to get a better quarterback too? That's my other thing. Like, is there someone better on the market?
And that's the second thing with like all these quarterback deals too that people are like complaining about too. Like you look at Dak's deal that he just got now. Like people are complaining about it. It's like, are you going to have somebody that's going to produce more than Dak that's making less than Dak? Really?
Dak had MVP numbers last year. Like, I know people want to hate on him. He did. I voted him in our awards. I voted him MVP. And I don't know. I think it's crazy he didn't win. He had great numbers. But I always pick against the Colts, and I'm doing that same thing again this week. The last quarterback to beat Jacksonville in Jacksonville was Andrew Luck in 2014. It has been 11 straight years since we have won in Jacksonville. I have been to the last 3 losses, including the heartbreaking one where we could have clinched against the Urban Meyer-less Jaguars, and we lost with Carson Wentz. The Colts really just can't really figure out an identity when they don't have Joe Flacco out there, honestly. When Joe Flacco's there, it's run the football and throw it short, let Joe kind of do his thing, but you're comfortable with the offense. Anthony Richardson looked great last week on Sunday, the first 2 drives, and then obviously gets hurt, and I have my own issues on it. Yeah, I'm going Jags. I don't even care what this is a game they win. This just is a game they win. Because
for some reason.
We're the Colts. We're the Colts. They're 0-4. We could have a chance to keep them to 0-5, but they will win this. Absolutely. That's just what the Colts do. Let's we are running pretty long. Let's just rapid fire here. Bills Texans.
Another great game. Texans. I just love the Texans. I love CJ. I love D'Amico.
Yeah, I'm going to go Texans. It's been a little up and down first few weeks for Houston, but man, Buffalo, I don't know, maybe they got a little exposed on Sunday night, maybe a little bit of a blow to their ego. So I'm going to take Stroud over Allen.
Yeah, I'm going to ride with Houston too. It's a home game. I can't remember the last time the Bills were there, but obviously Josh Allen's first playoff game was in Houston against Deshaun and the Texans, and he lost. So maybe that juju will stay with them. And I'm going Houston. Raiders Broncos in Denver. Oh, gross game too.
That's a gross game too. I'm gonna go Broncos, and I really dislike Sean Payton at this point in my career now, just because of what he's done to players at this point. Not necessarily just Russell Wilson. I've heard from other players about certain things too, about how he treats guys.
Bountygate.
So
that's the big one too.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I'm going to go Broncos just because I can't go Raiders when they don't have a quarterback. They don't have a true functioning quarterback. He's not a true functioning quarterback. He's going to get you enough wins to be like a playoff bound. Like, you can rely on that defense as much as you want. But you have to have somebody other than Gardner Minshew. That's why I don't think you're getting the production out of Devontae Adams that you want. Because Devontae's like, Gardner's tight, but I should be with the better quarterback.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I mean, Sean Payton's doing a great job. Denver's got a top 5 defense. I mean, their defense has really been suffocating teams. And Bo Nix, I mean, he's not really, the numbers aren't great, but last couple games been better. He threw what, like a couple picks a few weeks ago, hasn't thrown a pick the last couple weeks. So, and the Raiders quarterback situation, the whole vibe around the Raiders has been kind of weird this year. I mean, they get a win last week. They look horrible against Carolina. Right. You don't know which team's going to show up. So I'm going to go Denver. They've been consistent. I mean, even in those first 2 losses, they hung in there against Seattle and Pittsburgh, and now they got some momentum.
There's some major controversy going on right now with Devontae Adams. Antonio Pierce liking an Instagram post talking about Adams being traded. Adams says he hasn't heard from Antonio Pierce since then. Who would have thought that the little rectangles here, social media, would be like deciding major.
It's how it always is, though.
Major NFL news of a wide receiver like a star wide receiver. Who would have thought that would be kind of, creating issues? But I don't even know. Both of these teams are they just kind of exist right now in the NFL. They're not really fun. There's nothing really like cool about them besides Gardner Minshew for the Raiders. I love Gardner. So I guess I'll roll with the Raiders. If I gun to my head, I got to pick someone.
I respect it just because, he's like Michael said, like the Broncos, like the D, but like Bo Nix is the quarterback that Sean Payton won, and you can see that like he's rounding them into form type of thing. So I think with how he's playing right now, like it's just, again, the Raiders are a mess. They're just complete. They're shambles. A lot of these teams, again, like you see it in pro sports more than you see it anywhere else. Like these teams are just in a like a lot of teams are a mess, and it doesn't make sense, right? Like
Yeah.
you would expect these people to be more professional.
Chicago
It's
White
not just the
Sox.
players; it's a lot of times like the front office and stuff like that. Like you look at the White Sox, you look at the Red Sox a couple years ago. Like you look at the Houston, the Astros when all that stuff went down and fire started, spilling the beans and stuff back in the day. Like it's a bad look. I mean, and you see it more from major corporations than you see it a lot of times from other people. It's just crazy
Yeah.
to think about.
Cards, Niners. This one's a weird one too. Got a lot of injuries on the Niners side. Niners.
I gotta go Niners. Fiance, baby boy, Niners fan. Niners are just. I feel like the Niners are probably the Cards' dads on this too. I mean, Kyler's been playing his butt off, but that blowout that the Cards had last week, again, same thing. Did they get exposed? I mean, and the Niners are the Niners. They play great football week in and week out, find ways to win. They're the top. They're the head of the class in the NFC pretty much for them. So
Yeah,
I gotta go Niners.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Jay. And I also think the Niners kind of weathering this early storm. They lose a couple games, got some injuries, and then last week they kind of got themselves right, did what they had to do. It's been weird with Arizona. They played well even in a loss in week 1, and they come back and they get a win the next week. But then, obviously coming off a really ugly performance against Washington, and it's going to be tough for them to go on the road and beat the Niners. So I'm going San Fran.
Packer. Yeah, I'm going San Fran. I
by
don't
the
know.
way.
I still don't believe in the Cardinals. I just don't. You can't get me to be. They are frisky. They're very frisky. They're going to give you a fight, but it's just the logo. It's that bird logo. There's so many other better bird logos out there. The vibe in Arizona football just doesn't do it for me. Give me the Niners. Packers, Rams in LA in that gross Apple store of a stadium that they call SoFi.
Is Jordan Love starting again for the Packers?
Yes.
Maybe he rounds into form, and I'm going to go with the Pack on that just because he struggled early this past week. You could tell that he was, I think, worried about the injury a little bit and stuff, but he started rounding form in the second half that the Pack had against the Vikes. Like, yeah, so I'm going to go Pack for sure on this one. And just the Rams are always banged up. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, they have Matthew Stafford, but then all their like other receivers, top receivers, are always banged up. So I'm going to go
that
Pack.
Apple Store of a stadium. Yeah, my uncle goes to a few games out there, lives out there, and always complains about what a bad kind of just overall game day experience SoFi is. Also, the visiting fans just dominate, and you know how well Packers fans travel. So it's going to be almost like a warm weather, well, indoor, I guess, but Packer home game. The hope is that the more Jordan, like maybe he rushed back, that's what people are saying, but maybe it's one of those things where the more he gets comfortable playing with it, he picks up that momentum. Yeah, and the Rams, injuries, I mean, their last home game was great. They beat the Niners, but I don't know. I got to go Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm going Green Bay. I love the way Love looked in the second half last week. He really found his footing, got really comfortable. I mean, I think he had 3 interceptions. But in the second half, he had, I think, 3 touchdown passes in the second half, over 370 yards. He was dominating, and especially a Brian Flores-led Vikings defense. I think he's going to carry it in, and they just won't be able to keep up. The Rams just won't be able to keep pace with them. Giants, Seahawks. Again, why are we even playing this game?
Seahawks. Yeah, Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Seahawks defense had a rough night last night. I think this is the team to get right against. The Giants, man, like such a proud organization. They won a couple Super Bowls in our lifetime, but it's just been so ugly the last few years, especially. So, and I like Mike McDonald. Shout out. He's done a great job after leaving the Ravens defense and maybe not the greatest shape now, but he's doing a great job out there. So, yeah, I'm happy to see Seattle doing well, and I'm going with them on Sunday.
I'm going to roll with Seattle, too. The Giants are, I'll say this, the Giants are a little frisky, too. They played Dallas tough. They picked up a win the week before. I can't remember who it was over.
They beat Cleveland,
They definitely played better. I think
week. That's the problem.
Cleveland. Yeah, well,
they played better, but it's still looking pretty ugly.
Yeah, they're ugly. They'll put up a fight. I feel like I feel like Seattle with a big point spread is not really trustworthy. 6 points, I would take the Giants +6, but I'm rolling with Seattle. the Sunday night game, a great historical matchup, great color matchup, awesome color matchup. Cowboys Steelers in Pittsburgh as well. I love it when they go to Pittsburgh.
Fiance is gonna hate me for saying this, but Cowboys just they're looking better. Their defense is still kind of in shambles, but again, the Steelers' offense is the Steelers' offense. You know, Justin Fields is doing a great job keeping them in games and things of that nature, but it's still not. They're not. They're relying on their defense more than Justin Fields is relying on that offense. And I feel like you have to let Justin Fields move around and like work the offense more than they have. And I feel like that's been kind of the knock on him since the Chicago days. Is like when he's able to go do things and like you let him play, he plays well. But a lot of times they keep him boxed in and you rely on your defense so much that he doesn't get a chance to really go out there and show what he can do. So I'm going to take the Cowboys just because of the weapons they have and that they've just pieced that game together. And it's just going to be one of those I think it's going to be a closer game than people give it to too.
I'm also going Dallas. I looked at the history because I always remember these teams playing close games, and the last 5 matchups have all been one score. And I actually remember that last game where Dallas was in Pittsburgh and Zeke had that big run right up the middle with like 10 seconds left to win. I think Dallas also they're coming in a little better with more rest. They had the 3 days extra because of the Thursday night game. The offense, I mean, Lamb's been really good. They sound like they put up huge point totals, like 20 points last week. But yeah, I don't know. I never count out a Mike Tomlin team over the course of a season, but I think on a given week, I'm okay picking against the Steelers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the key right there. Over a season, not counting Mike T out. But like as far as like I feel like this specific game, I like the Cowboys. Like if it was it's gonna be I feel like it's gonna be like you said, it's gonna be closer than I would like it to be. And I know my cousin's gonna hate me for picking the Cowboys too because he's a Steelers fan. But I feel like this game with the way Dallas played last week, and I feel like they might have figured something out. It's gonna be one of those games for them.
Yeah, Justin Fields has done the first 3 weeks, basically did nothing to lose a football game, and that's why they were 3-0. He did everything right. Didn't do any more, but didn't do anything else. He had a bad fumble around midfield against Indy. After that, turned on the gas. I think they went on like 4 scoring drives after that. He had 312 passing yards. That's a good day, especially for Justin Fields. But I think just the law of Mike Tomlin averages, they lose this game. They started 3-1. They started hot. You got to lose a few now. They're going to, you lose a game to an Indy team who is, again, as a Colts fan, we are not a great football team. That should have been kind of a winnable game, but, I think the Steelers were playing a little above their pay grade anyways. But yeah, I'm going to roll with the Cowboys. And then the final game, we finally only get one Monday Night Football game. I'm so happy. I hate the 2 Monday night games. They stagger it weird. ESPN.
They do stagger it very weird on that. They stagger it very weird on that.
ESPN never does anything right. They just don't do anything right. Only with the money.
That's what I'm saying. If you're gonna have Monday night games like that, you got to go Monday night game where it's like 7:00 Eastern, and then it's got to be like the 10 p.m. West Coast game or something like that. It's got to be like an hour or two.
Or give me like a 5 o'clock.
Like
a 5 o'clock.
It can't be like a 45. It can't be like a. Yeah, it can't be like a 30, 45 minute.
Yeah, when they first started doing it, that's how they did it. I think it was like 06 was the first year. Now it is weird to have these overlapping games.
Yeah.
I want to watch all the football, not
TV.
I have to maximize my football experience. Saints Chiefs on Monday Night Football in Kansas City. I'll let you get your take on it first, Jay.
I think it's going to be a great matchup just because, the Chiefs are dealing with some injuries too, but the Chiefs D is stout once again, after last year, how they played. Having CJ back on that defensive line is huge. You know what I mean? So again, and you can never bet against Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to go Chiefs for the Monday night game for sure, even though the Saints have a great team this year for sure. They've been playing well, but I'm going to say the Chiefs for sure, just Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Derek Carr has not done well in his career at Arrowhead. He struggled a lot with the Raiders. I just feel like the Chiefs are never going to lose. I know they're not going 17-0. It just, they have that New England Patriots. I mean, they're kind of the new Patriots that have been phased in. They just figure out ways to win. And I just also feel like the defense does not get talked about enough. I know it hasn't been like unbelievable this year, but they find ways to make plays. And it doesn't seem like anybody on the planet can block Chris Jones. And even when he's not getting sacks, he's just wrecking things in the backfield. Saints have played well. Like their 2 losses the last 2 weeks are by 5 points. So I do think they'll keep it close, but it's almost like I'm more hesitant to pick against Kansas City in a close game than even a blow. I feel like if you're going to beat them, you got to beat them like 31-3. You can't let them hang around where they can make those plays in the big moments. Yeah. So I'm going to take the Chiefs.
The last time Derek Carr beat the Chiefs at home was the John Gruden doing a lap around Arrowhead. 2020. That was the last time we saw that. We're not going to see another one this time. I'm rolling with the Chiefs as well. It's just the Saints just don't. They're too touchy. They scored 97 points the first couple weeks, and then they've just kind of gone dead. And I don't think you're going to see much of a spark. I could be wrong. Remember, this is a Dennis Allen coach team. I mean, Dennis Allen. Who the hell is Dennis Allen? Who the hell am I? Who the hell is Dennis Allen? So I'm going to roll with the Chiefs here. It's prime time, and they're going to get the calls. They're always going to get the calls. As much as people complain, they're going to get those calls, and I'm rolling with the Chiefs here. For sure. But that was awesome. Thank you for coming on, man. That's where we're going to wrap up.
No, for sure.
Go check out the Brushback podcast on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Yes, that's correct. YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. We're trying to see what other platforms are, but we're just, like I said, I just roll into them and just see how it goes, man. Just put them out wherever people like to hear them, and we've gotten some good feedback so far, so we appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on for sure.
Absolutely.
Getting to talk about some football too. It's getting that time where we're going to start talking about some football on the podcast as well, so we appreciate it. I appreciate it for sure. Oh, and check the book out too. Yes. 11-11, 9 innings to your best life.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Really awesome. Enjoyed talking to you, baseball and football, and just hearing your story. And great stuff.
No problem. I appreciate it. Again, thanks for having me.
No problem. See you, man.